The fact that she shot him 9 times tells you a lot. She wanted to make sure he was really dead.
Marcia Thompson exercised her legal right and her human right to defend her own life.
Verdict, not guilty.
Deputy, stop it! Stop it!
An emotional win for Marcia Thompson, the jury deciding that she was an abused wife and not a murderer. Her attorney and one of the jurors join us live. And we're getting you all ready for the opening statements in the Black Swan murder trial by talking to one of the attorneys on a similar and very high-profile case. Also this hour, we've got video of a woman being shot by an Illinois sheriff's deputy, and it's causing outrage. Our panel is talking about what we don't see in that video. Plus, multiple Baldwin jurors are speaking out about how Hannah Gutierrez's verdict may have tipped the scales. It's all coming up next for you, plus much more right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. Just like in an actual trial here on this program, we get you all primed and ready to go for what's ahead in the case evidence. I like to think of this program as kind of like coffee in court. It's morning time. We get all warmed up together and ready for the big cases here on Court TV Live. So right now, why don't you go ahead, grab that cup of coffee. It's time now for my opening statement. Not surprised. I am not surprised that the jury found Marcia Thompson not guilty. Only because I understand what trauma can do to the brain if it isn't properly dealt with. Let me be very clear here. There was nothing wrong with this prosecution. The state attorney's office should hold its head up high for pursuing this case. A fine job they did, following the evidence, following the law, seeking justice for Terry Thompson. Marcia Thompson was put through trauma after trauma after trauma and never healed. Her brain became wired differently than a person who isn't experiencing intimate partner violence. Her case illustrates the complexities of the effects of domestic violence on a person's mental health. My greatest wish for Marcia Thompson is that she can start on her healing journey now and take her children along with her. Intensive trauma-informed therapy is what she and her kids will hopefully receive as they go back to living as much of a normal life as possible. The court case is closed, but the healing journey, my friends, is something very separate. And we don't often hear people talking about the importance of healing when they've been through a trauma. But it is critical to understand if we want to help others or help ourselves break the cycle of abuse. Because the body isn't the only area dangerously impacted by domestic violence. Unhealed mental and emotional trauma can have devastating, and as we've seen, even deadly effects. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Certainly this case has been pending since around September of 2020. It's now July of 2024. I think the state has every right to and is ready to go to trial. I will deny the motion to continue.
A Florida jury of 6 plus 3 alternates will begin hearing the evidence in the Black Swan murder trial this morning. This is just one of the cases we're following for you today on Court TV. In Massachusetts, we've got jury selection continuing in our next hour in the trial of defendant Christine Ritchie. Now, she is accused of murdering her Boston firefighter husband. And in Mississippi, we've got 15-year-old Carly Gregg back in court at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. She's got a motions hearing. Gregg is accused of killing her mother and trying to kill her stepfather. We'll have more updates on that case as it develops. Right now, we want to go back to our top story as Marcia Thompson is now catching up with family and friends after her case win on Monday. She was accused of murdering her husband, Terry, back in 2019, and she admitted to shooting him, but said from the very beginning that it was in self-defense. The jurors took a little more than 4 hours to come to their verdict.
Madam Clerk, please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit Criminal Division in and for Palm Beach County, Florida, case number 19-CF-7582, Division U, State of Florida versus Marcia Thompson. Verdict, not guilty.
Deputy, stop it! Stop it!
So say we all this 22nd day of July 2024 in West Palm Beach County, Florida.
After the verdict, the prosecutor's office had this to say, quote, "While we disagree with the verdict, we respect it and thank the jurors for their careful consideration of the case." And that is the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office. The state attorney, you know him, of course, Dave Ehrenberg. Right now, I want to welcome in a very special guest on the program to talk about the outcome of this trial. You saw her in action. Marcia Thompson's defense attorney, Jessica Mishali, is with us. Jessica, good morning to you. And might I just start by saying what a tremendous advocate you are and how much I really enjoyed watching you and what a fine job you did representing your client. How is she this morning?
Thank you so much. That means a lot. She's doing amazing right now. 5 years in this journey is a very long time. So this has been something she's been waiting for herself, for her life, for her children's lives. So this is just that you can see when the verdict is read what an incredible moment this is for her entire family who's been sticking by her for all these years.
Right. I mean, the cheering. I mean, we saw the cheering and the judge admonished everyone. Did you expect that?
So throughout the trial, there was kind of talk about her family crying. They were trying their best to keep it down. It was emotional. I'm sure there was crying on the other side too. So we were sort of admonished not to make much noise. But I think it was just so overwhelming in that moment. We know there's a verdict. We're waiting for it to be read. I myself was very emotional. And I think they just couldn't help their reaction.
Right. That was quite a moment. We were just showing our viewers as you were speaking, Jessica, when you and Marcia had that long hug at counsel table, and then you and your co-counsel and Marcia hugged. It was like, she was like a sandwich, you know, the three of you together, really quite a moment. You could tell just how moved you were after quite a fight. This was not an easy case to win, and you did it. Talk to us a little bit, please, if you would, about what you've come to know about Marcia Thompson throughout this journey, because it was very clear to us. You knew your facts, you knew the case, you knew the law. What did you learn about her as a person?
So I met Marcia 5 years ago. I've been representing her for her entire case. I've gotten to know her very, very well, her and her family. She is, without question, the most gentle and kind person I personally have ever met. I consider her a friend. It's been a very emotional journey for me, just coming to know her story and coming to know what she's gone through outside of the courtroom has been actually very difficult because it's not an easy story to hear.
No, certainly not. Jessica, tell us a little bit about what life has been like for Marcia these past 5 years, the things we didn't get to see in the courtroom. How was she living?
So thankfully, she's not been in jail, and that's been wonderful, but it's been a very difficult life. The situation was she had 2 young children when this happened. At the time, I believe they were about 7 and 9 years old. And they immediately went to live with her parents, and she had to go through court, juvenile dependency court in order to be able to see them. Initially, it was supervised, and then eventually she could see them, but the criminal court would not allow her to move to Orlando, which is where her parents live, where their home is, and her children were with them. So even though we asked, and even though she clearly was cooperating with her ankle monitor, we tried everything we could, they would not agree. And so she was living with another family member locally, as was required by the court, and she could not live together with her kids. So her life has been just FaceTime with her kids 24 hours a day, doing anything and everything she could to care from them from a distance, to make sure that they were taken care of and getting everything they needed, and assisting her parents any way she could, but without being able to leave the house, on very strict house arrest, and having to be here locally.
Wow. So Jessica, when was the last time she was able to see her children in person?
So yesterday she saw them in person. Last night after this was over, and before that she was seeing them, but the way it was working is family members have to drive them back and forth from Orlando whenever they see her, and of course there's their school schedules and things like that. So she has been seeing them, just not being able to live with them and take care of them. But last night, everything changed, because as of today, she will be living with them.
Wow. I can't even imagine what that reunion must have been like for her. I'm sure she is really overwhelmed. And from what we learned in reaching out to you after the case, that she's just not ready, to speak. But we would love to speak with her someday when she's ready. Tell us a little bit about what this did to her professional career, Jessica. Was she still employed while she was awaiting trial?
So she was not. She hasn't worked in 5 years. And I believe that technically she was on unpaid leave. And so now it's sort of a question of what's going to happen. I don't know, and they don't know yet, if they're going to take her back, if she's going to work there, if it would be the same position, if it would be another position. It's all so new and kind of unknown right now.
Well, we certainly wish her the very best as she gets back on track. And so many things are involved here. The reuniting with her children, as you know, her job and her professional life, and then, of course, the mental health journey. I think you may have heard me, Jessica, talking about trauma, and it was very clear watching you and the tremendous advocacy work you did for Marcia that you understood the effects of that long-term domestic violence that she experienced. What's her plan in terms of trauma therapy for herself, for her children, in order to make sure that she is okay going forward?
So as far as her children, that was taken care of right away. They haven't had to wait. So they were in therapy and they've been seeing professionals and being taken care of in that way for the past 5 years. So that, thankfully, has been very, very helpful for them in their healing journey. For Marcia Thompson, it's a little bit more difficult. What she went through is so tremendous. And the way I kind of learned this is really through her. I have a lot of experience with domestic violence in my cases, many, many cases throughout the years. But this situation was really unique for me. So I learned about it through her. She realizes that she needs that trauma therapy, and that is sort of the next step in her life. I think that's also why she doesn't think too much about her job or what's going to happen there. Really, her next step is healing.
Oh, that is wonderful to hear. We certainly hope that she is able to do that, and she really gets a second chance at life to live a safe, healthy life. So we wish her the best with that. Jessica, before we let you go, what else would you like to share about this case? What else don't we know, and what should we know, please?
What I think people should know is that what Marcia Thompson went through can't really be understood by someone who didn't go through it. And I'm so grateful that the jurors in this case were willing to open their minds and their hearts and pay really close attention to learn about what Marcia Thompson went through the experts who testified in the case. It's not easy to understand if you haven't been through it before. There really are changes that happen in the brain. And so I'm just grateful that they were able to understand. They also didn't hear all of the evidence. We had witnesses lined up to testify to prior violence of Terry Thompson, and that ended up not being admissible in court. So there was a real concern about what the jury would think when they weren't hearing that corroboration. But I'm so grateful and humbled by the jury's verdict.
As I'm sure you are. And Jessica, we have loved watching you in the courtroom and speaking with you this morning. We would love to have you come on sometime and be an analyst on one of our other cases. Not your case. You get a break. You get to look at it objectively from afar after you get some rest after what has been quite a long and very emotional fight. Jessica Mishali, thank you again. Congratulations on the win, and wish Marcia every good wish from us at Court TV as she moves forward.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and I would love to.
Oh, very good. We'll be in touch. Take good care. Here's what we're going to do, my friends. We're going to squeeze in a break. When we come back, we're going to show you some very disturbing video. An Illinois woman calls police for help with a prowler. She is shot to death in her kitchen, and now the deputy who shot her is being criminally prosecuted. We'll discuss the video, what we see, and what it doesn't show with our expert panel next. And jurors are sharing their thoughts on Alec Baldwin's trial. Might they have decided his fate before the trial even began? We'll talk about it next.
A former ballerina charged in the death of her husband.
Will the jury see her actions as self-defense?
She killed my dad or murder.
The Black Swan murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV. This week,
We'll get you ready for the proceedings each day in the Black Swan murder trial. Plus, Friday, a voice for victims in the tragic case of Rachel Morin.
opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Now for what's trending in true crime. An Illinois woman is dead after calling police to her home for help. According to the sheriff's office is reporting 36-year-old Sonya Massey was shot in the face by a sheriff's deputy named Sean Grayson on July the 6th. Police say that she called 911 to report a suspected prowler. When entering her home, the two deputies are seen engaging with Massey, having discussion with her. Everything was very pleasant before granting her permission to move a boiling pot of water that was steaming from her stove. Let's take a look together at what happens next.
I don't know where my ID is.
You just got that stack right there, maybe?
Okay. 1 second.
Check on her.
Let me get this.
No, we don't need a fire while we're here.
Right. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
I'll
Rebuke you in the name of
You better not. That's where I'll shoot you right in the face.
All right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot! Drop the 14 shots fired. Shots fired! Shots fired! Drop the pot!
Now, Grayson has since been fired from the sheriff's department. He is now facing charges of first-degree murder, aggravated battery, and official misconduct. This morning, we're asking, what aren't we seeing in that video that's important for us to know? I have two tremendous guests. I want to bring them in now. I want to welcome in trial attorney and the former president of the National Bar Association, attorney C.K. Hoffler, and retired FBI special agent, firearms instructor, and former SWAT team member, Jennifer Coffindaffer. Great to see you brilliant ladies this morning and have you both able to weigh in from your various areas of expertise in law and law enforcement. So let's take these in turn, talking about the incident itself and then what comes next now that this case is in the criminal justice system. Agent Coffindaffer, would you start us off, please? Talk to us a bit about what you're seeing in this video and what you're most curious to see that we're unable to see from it.
Well, good morning, ladies. First of all, I think it's very important to see how quickly everything escalated here, when in fact law enforcement has they must de-escalate situations. She goes and removes this water, and then I believe she makes it colder because they talk about the steam coming off. That's what I gleaned from this. And it doesn't seem that she says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus to these officers, but rather sort of says this This is a training situation, I think, from the standpoint these officers don't recognize seemingly that she really isn't a threat, and they completely escalated the situation and shot when they absolutely had no authority to shoot, in my opinion.
Agent Coffindeffer, thank you for that. And now the county has presented it to a grand jury. They've issued a true bill. This officer is fired and facing charges. C.K. Hoffler, to you next, please. Would you take it from here as this progresses through the legal system? Your thoughts on the video and what the video doesn't show as well.
Well, good morning. The video is probably the most compelling piece of evidence that we know at this point. It does show the escalation by law enforcement versus the de-escalation. It shows the culpability of law enforcement, and so I think it's a very, very powerful piece of evidence. This evidence will be used in the criminal case against this officer. This is so very tragic. I've got to disclose, Ben Crump is a very good friend. He's my co-counsel on a number of cases. I saw him a couple days ago. We were at the National Bar meeting. We talked about this case. This is so egregious. This woman really was not a threat on any level, saying, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and her tenor, her tone, her body language was not threatening at all, yet this officer somehow thought that she was threatening him with a pot of water. And so this is a clear example, Julie, I think of a case that for sure is going to go to trial. And I would predict, even based on this limited evidence that I've seen, which is the video that speaks volumes, I predict there will be a conviction if he doesn't plea out. This is horrific. It's extraordinarily disturbing, and this is it really causes goop. Whenever I see this footage, I feel very, very, very troubled that this has actually happened to this unfortunate young lady.
I appreciate your comments so much, CK. Thank you for that, and for the mention as well of the possibility of a civil suit, too. As you noted, your colleague and friend Ben Crump is representing the Massey family, and so the legal problems for this fired deputy probably won't stop with the criminal case. There's going to be civil action as well. CK, do you know, has anything been filed yet? I'm not sure if he might have mentioned that, or sometimes the idea is wait until the criminal case plays out.
Well, I think that there's some additional information. This is my understanding now. It's been about 3 days or 4 days, but they're waiting some additional information. But for sure, this is going to be a very significant civil case. I think it's a very strong civil case. A lot of times when you have these excessive use of force cases, you may not have all the evidence to be able to launch a very strong civil case. But this is a very strong civil case with the evidence that we've seen thus far. And there's probably more evidence that we haven't seen.
Point well taken, CK. We want to know what more is there, what more, you know, with that vantage point, there's a portion of it we can't see. So certainly the more information about this, the better. Agent Coffindeffer, one last question for you, please. Just out of curiosity, when the officers are there looking at this objectively, you know, with the training that you have, what would have been the better thing to do for them if they were fearful of the boiling water being thrown at them? What would have been the better way? I'm just curious, because I noted neither one of them backed away from what I could see, and I'm just curious what the training would be in a situation like that.
Well, such a great question. First of all, it's to get distance, especially when you're just looking at boiling water as being the intended weapon, apparently, that they saw as being threatening to them. So back away, get a position where something is between them, which there was already counter, but we see a lot of other items there, and talk to her and say, step away from that pot, please step away over here, and you need to get control of the situation in a very de-escalating manner. How they thought that it would be justified to pull a weapon when their life wasn't in jeopardy, nor serious bodily harm at that point because of the distance, really defies logic.
Appreciate both of you sharing such excellent insight with us. We know this case is far from over. We'll continue reporting any new information that we learn. In the meantime, let's turn to some other trending news as 2 jurors from Alec Baldwin's recent Russ case are speaking out about their initial doubts in the state's case. They said that if the case against Baldwin hadn't been dismissed by the judge, all 12 jurors would have come to the same unanimous verdict anyway. When asked about the trial, juror number 7 said, quote, "It was clearly an accident, and the idea that there's anything purposeful or the idea that there was this grave carelessness that caused this didn't seem realistic to me." Juror 9 said it wasn't Baldwin's job to know about gun safety and that he shouldn't be on trial. So our question this morning, did the jury decide Baldwin's fate before hearing all the facts? Let's bring back in attorney C.K. Hoffler and agent Jennifer Coffindaffer. C.K., to you first here, please. What does this make you think that these jurors had their minds made up?
Well, you know, Julie, it makes me think that this is exactly what jurors do. We are told by the time opening statements are over, so you go through voir dire and opening statements, most of the jurors have made up their minds. And so this is exactly what we fear as trial lawyers has happened. And so primacy is key. So I believe that they had made up their minds and they were just waiting to get confirmation by the evidence of their positions. And maybe 1 or 2 would have been swayed. But after opening statements, after they hear a little bit of evidence, the jury, it's in. They know what they're going to do, and this is proof positive of that.
C.K., thank you for that. Agent Coffindaffer, your thoughts on these jurors and what they're sharing now?
Well, I have to agree in part, but I will say this, that because they didn't see all the evidence, as an example, I think they needed to see some of the reckless activity of Mr. Baldwin on other sets. That might have swayed them. They needed to hear from a firearms expert as to how you handle a gun when you're responsible and have a live gun in your hand. I always said that if this jury was made up of individuals who don't handle firearms and don't understand the rules, that would very much favor Baldwin. And it seems like both of these jurors don't have a huge understanding of the liability that's in your hands when you have a live firearm and what you need to do to precaution not killing anyone.
Great points. We'll have to leave it there for now, and we have to say goodbye to our friend C.K. Hoffler. C.K., always lovely to have you on the program. Thank you for your insight. We'll see you soon. Agent Coffindaffer is coming along with us, and we want you to do the same, please. After this break, we're comparing 2 very high-profile Florida cases. Both of them have the defense team asserting the affirmative defense of self-defense. Ashley Benefield, Courtney Clenney, what do these cases have in common? We'll talk about it next. And one of the jurors who found Marcia Thompson not guilty of murdering her husband joins us next on the program live. We'll talk about what is tipping the scales. Welcome back to Opening Statements. This morning, we're shining a spotlight on 2 high-profile cases, both happening in Florida and both with some stunning parallels. First, we have the Black Swan murder trial that's in jury selection, actually getting ready for the opening statements to begin this morning. The jury selection wrapped up late in the day yesterday. Former ballerina Ashley Benefield accused of murdering her husband, Doug.
So they were in an argument?
I don't know. She came in. She was quite hysterical. I didn't know who was banging on my door. Said that he attacked her, and she shot him. They've been having trouble.
And then there's the case of OnlyFans model Courtney Clenney, who's accused of murdering her boyfriend, Christian Albumselli.
Actually, done. Okay, fine. Done. Because you're costing me money. I didn't do because I got to this house because of you. You let my mom say some mind ass. No, because of you. Flirting with 3 girls the whole time. What 3 girls?
Now, both of these women are young, attractive, and both appeared to be in toxic relationships. Both cases, we're going to see claims of self-defense, affirmative defenses of self-defense being put forward by their respective defense teams. The Benefield case starting today, the Clenney case starting in the future. I have a very special guest I want to welcome on the program now. Attorney Frank Prieto is with us. He is one of Courtney Clenney's defense attorneys. You've seen him here on opening statements before, and we're so pleased to have him back. Frank, good morning to you.
Good morning, Julie.
Could we start, please, with something I keep hearing a lot of questions about in our newsroom, and if I'm hearing it in our newsroom, I'm sure that many of our wonderful trial watchers around the world are asking the same thing. In the Benefield case, when we had that stand your ground hearing that was widely publicized, where Ashley Benefield was trying to get immunity from prosecution, and the judge said, no, you're not immune from prosecution. There's plenty of evidence for this case to move forward, for the charging to stand. Would you talk to us at trial about the defense's ability to raise the stand your ground defense in front of the jury?
Right, Julie. Yeah, it appears the judge found, so under Florida's stand your ground immunity defense, for the judge to take the case out of the hands of the jury in that pretrial motion, the defense has to put forth a prima facie case of self-defense or stand your ground immunity. Then that burden switches to the prosecution to promote clear and convincing evidence, and the judge found that. But just because you lose that hearing doesn't mean you can't present the same defense, a self-defense claim, in front of the jury. So the jury will have to see whether or not she was justified in using deadly force.
Frank, thank you for that, because I think what could be unclear, and I could understand why, to trial watchers or folks thinking that, oh, it all ends right there because of the judge's finding. But no, we should expect to see it again at the time of trial in front of the jury. And yesterday, we saw something kind of bizarre. We saw the defense team asking the judge to recuse himself because of what he found in the stand your ground hearing. And Frank, I got to tell you, my jaw was on the floor when I'm thinking, why in the world are they doing this? Your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, those are always risky moves to try to ask a judge to recuse himself. Clearly, I think the judge issued a very lengthy opinion. I did not read it all, but, apparently they felt that the judge showed some type of prejudice toward their client in denying the motion or the language that the judge was using in that motion. But again, to turn to ask the judge to recuse himself, it can be a little bit of a gamble. You don't necessarily want a judge that you said can't be fair, making decisions when there's a gray area of the law or the new motion you're going to raise. So it's somewhat of a risky tactic, but again, it creates an appellate issue. That you're also on the defense side. Look, you may not win the motion, but you raise an issue for appeal, and that's something that you always have to be cognizant of.
Certainly. Frank, thank you for that. I want to play a clip, and this is from a totally different judge. This is when Ashley Benefield's case was in a family court, and she was making allegations that her husband, Doug, was abusing her. Specifically, she was saying that he was attempting to poison her while she was pregnant with her daughter, and the judge essentially found her to be lying. Let's take a listen to what that judge said.
This court will find that as far as credibility is concerned, I would find, and I'm going to say this in the gentlest form I possibly can, that there is absolutely not a single scintilla of credibility that I'm attaching to anything that was testified to, at least in this hearing of Miss Benefield.
Ooh, okay, and so we know that was one of the things she claimed. There hasn't been much. There's an issue where she claims that he was rough with the family dog, and this issue of attempted poisoning. In this respect, this case is very different from your case with your client, Courtney Clenney, Frank, as you know. If this judge didn't find there was any truthfulness here to prior abuse, how do you think these jurors may see the situation?
Well, the judge said she used a very strong word, that she found there was not even a scintilla of evidence. And your viewers know, as well as you do, Julie, that means basically she thought it was frivolous, that there wasn't any evidence to support those claims of the poisoning. Look, I wasn't at the hearing, but I'm guessing there was no evidence presented. Lab results, there was no tests. And it's concerning for the defense team in a situation like that, where the jurors are going to now have to judge, Ashley's credibility, because in order to mount your self-defense she most likely is going to have to testify or has to testify. And so her credibility is going to be scrutinized by all of those jurors.
Excellent points, Frank. Frank, before we let you go, certainly want to ask you the latest in your case. Do we have a trial date yet?
Julie, we still do not. I believe you had my co-counsel, Ms. Pugliese, on the other day when concerning the issue that the judge threw out the computer access case because of the state's invasion of the defense camp. So that has really delayed things. We are now hoping that the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office will do the right thing and recuse themselves now that they've looked into our work product. So if they don't, well, we're filing the motions. That's going to have to be litigated. We do have a status coming up in mid-August, I believe. We're hopeful that we might be able to set a trial date, but this has been delayed due to the misconduct of the state attorney's office, unfortunately.
That was a huge win that you and Sabrina got, Frank, in getting the computer case thrown out for your clients. And so please keep us posted. We'll be following the status hearing and certainly would love to have you and Sabrina back anytime. Frank Prieto, thanks so much for all of the analysis and the explanations. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie.
See you soon. When we come back, we have got one of the jurors from the abused wife or murderer trial joining us live to talk about what tipped the scales for them in finding Marcia Thompson not guilty.
A former ballerina charged in the death of her husband.
Will the jury see her actions as self-defense?
She killed my dad or murder.
The Black Swan murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV. This week,
we'll get you ready for the proceedings each day in the Black Swan murder trial. Plus, Friday, a voice for victims in the tragic case of Rachel Morin.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales, Marcia Thompson waking up a free woman this morning after being found not guilty of the shooting death of her husband. When the verdict was read, the judge had to step in and control the gallery.
Ms. Thompson, having been found not guilty by a jury of your peers, you are free to go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not, I understand this may be a time to celebrate for you, but please recognize that someone lost their life. Please.
So what tipped the scales in the jury's decision regarding what happened with Marcia and Terry Thompson? I am so pleased to welcome in a very special guest, someone who was inside the courtroom for the entirety of the trial, inside the jury box, as a matter of fact. We're so happy to have with us juror number 5, Gail, on the program this morning. Gail, good morning to you. Thanks for making time for us here on Opening Statements.
Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you. So was this your first time serving as a juror?
This was absolutely my first time.
Oh, and what a case. What a case. This is just one it's tragic all the way around. And in a case like this, as you know, Gail, there are no winners. It's a legal finding, and now Marcia Thompson gets a second chance at life. What was really the biggest thing for you and your fellow jurors that convinced you that she was not guilty?
Well, first, there were lots of different holes in the evidence. There was different experts, and there was just a lot of indifference between some of them. We had a lot of missing pieces, a lot of inconsistencies, and, you know, some of us were right away feeling one way and a few the other way, and it didn't take too much time, but we got it done.
In terms of the defense witnesses, I'm so curious what you all thought of Dr. Michael Brannon, the expert who talked so much about battered person syndrome and really explained it. How convincing was he to all of you?
You know, all of the expert witnesses, I must say, they were extremely bright educated, knowledgeable. They knew what they were doing. We heard all of them, even though there were inconsistencies on direct and indirect questioning. Michael Brannon, he was really a great guy. We didn't speak to him other than just listening, but he really, really was quite bright and a great witness.
Appreciate it, Gail. Gail, I want to ask you about Marcia and Terry Thompson. So let's start first with Marcia. Your thoughts on her and her testimony in particular.
I must say, Marcia lived an unbelievable last, her life was difficult from the onset. What she endured and the day after day of what she didn't know what was going to be behind the corner, the incidents at the golf outing, the incidents that she endured with him at birthday parties and at events, and the phone calls to her family. I am just so glad that we found her not guilty, and she is just going to live her best life now, and we're all so happy for her.
Oh, that's very sweet, Gail. Gail, what were the thoughts, the sentiment from you and your fellow jurors when it comes to Terry Thompson?
I mean, nobody should pass away or die, whether it's cancer or a brain tumor or any other legal way to die. No one deserves to die. We heard so many things about Mr. Thompson. There was so much to absorb, and he just mistreated her, his first wives, his children, and everybody he got into contact with. And that's no way to be. He must have lived also a very sad, traumatic time during his lifetime.
It's terrible the way that he treated people that he should have been loving all the time. Gil, I'm curious, was there any feeling bad for Terry Thompson in that jury room?
Mainly, I will be quite honest with you, we talked about Marcia. There was talk about the way, the evidence that we had that he passed away, whether he rolled off the couch, how he got off the couch, was he reaching for her, what was going on in her mind during that time. Not anything about him as a person or emotions towards him. We had we were appointed with a job to do, and we did what we felt with the evidence provided, what we needed to do.
Gail, tell me, if Marcia Thompson hadn't testified, would you all have arrived at the same verdict?
Absolutely.
So did you expect to hear from her, or was that kind of just icing on the cake?
We didn't know from morning to afternoon what we were going to endure. We walked in one morning and she was sitting on the stand. So obviously we knew. I'm glad she testified. I'm glad that she told everybody exactly what happened to her and what she experienced, and that poor, terrible thing. She just didn't know what was coming at her from moment to moment or hour to hour.
Gail, I have to say, what a tremendous job you and your fellow jurors did in listening in on all of the evidence, considering all of it carefully, and following the law. Thank you for doing your civic duty and for coming on the show and telling us all about it. Gail, take good care. We've got to say goodbye. Every good wish to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're so pleased with the result.
Oh, my pleasure. And we're going to take a break now, as that is it for this episode of Opening Statements. You can watch it again on CourtTV.com. We'll be right back in Florida with the Black Swan murder trial.